don't make any pleas, as I am appearing in propria persona, and any plea would submit jurisdiction to the court. I am here challenging jurisdiction under the common law, as I am owed the law of peace, and this is a fraud action, as fraud in the inducement from the beginning under due process violations from Deputy Khalid Barake and the other officers or sheriffs that were on scene. And if you are attempting to administer the trust without consent of myself, the living man, the grantor, in common law, which is above Admiralty Maritime law, then you will be in violation, and I demand a trial by jury, grand jury of 12 jurors.
Well, you're going to get a trial under Kansas law of 6 jurors for a misdemeanor, not 12. And you're to put request in writing too.
All
okay. You're going to put that in writing
criminal courts are federal, and this court is federal incorporated.
No, it's not. No, it's not, sir. You're totally out of order. Sir, you're saying things you don't know what you apparently don't know what they mean. They don't belong in this court. I'm going to set them.
Phyllis K. Webster, will you please recite your oath of office into the court of record then today?
No, sir, I will not.
Why are you refusing to do so?
Let's move along.
I would please like to have that question answered.
Welcome to a Judge Webster Sovereign Trilogy, featuring one of the most obnoxious SovCits to ever appear in her courtroom, Anthony Dubus from Kansas. We've rolled all 3 of his dramatic court hearings into one convenient video, complete with timestamps and chapters in the description. In part 1, we see Anthony confidently assert that he will be representing himself pro se, claiming he wasn't driving, but traveling. And things really start heating up in part 2 when Mr. Dubus becomes increasingly cocky, rudely demanding that the prosecutor show his face so he can confront him in person. Judge Webster quickly reminds him who's really in charge. By part 3, Anthony returns with even more attitude, insisting that Judge Webster recite her oath of office on the spot, a request she promptly denies. Will it prove wise for this bold SovCit to defend himself without an attorney? Will his sovereign script somehow save him from the legal consequences he's facing? Stay tuned to find out.
State of Kansas versus Anthony Edward Dubus. Jared Regier for the state. Is Mr. Dubus present? Anthony Dubus?
I am Anthony Edward Dubus. Dubus is the English pronunciation. Dubus is the original French. And I am appearing specially in propria persona, not pro se, as sui juris.
Okay, first of all, I can't see you, so you're not here.
Parent satisfied?
Thank you, sir. Now,
absolutely.
As far as I need to go, well, I need you back here in person.
Okay, well, it's propria persona, not in person. I'm not the legal entity that you're claiming me to be.
All right, sir, if I can't get you on camera, you're not here.
I'm doing so right now. I'm just removing it as it's taped. It takes a while.
Now, the second order of business, let's get your name straight. I know a family with the same exact spelling in America, and they do pronounce it Dubus, but you said you pronounce it
Dubus, as the original. Dubus, as the original French. Yep.
Very well. Dubus.
Thank you.
Now, you're welcome. Now, Mr. Dubus appears in person and pro se.
Correction. Propria persona.
Well, in this court, it's in person. And
correction, in all courts, it may be either pro se, either appear in person, or propria persona.
Well, in my years of law school and nearly 40 years of practice, both as an attorney and a judge, it's been in person, and that's what I'm going with, sir. I believe that is just fine. So in any event,
the literal meaning of propria persona is a Latin phrase meaning in one's own person. In legal contexts, it simply means representing oneself in court without an attorney, also known as appearing pro se. And the literal meaning of sui juris is also a Latin term, meaning of one's own right, referring to a person who possesses full legal capacity to act on their own behalf. These terms can be used in legitimate legal contexts, but sovereign citizens twist their meanings to fit their narrative. Sovereign citizens believe that by appearing pro se, they are asserting their status as a natural person who is not subject to the same laws and regulations as their legal person or straw man. By using sui juris, they aim to reinforce the idea that they are not subject to the laws and regulations that apply to ordinary citizens. They believe that this status exempts them from following laws, paying taxes, or adhering to court rulings. In reality, none of these terms provide them with any special status or immunity from the law, so their refusal to engage with the legal system in a conventional way often leads to delays, contempt of court charges, and eventually harsher penalties.
We will proceed with your charges. In count one, sir, you're charged with, on August 17th, 2023, in Butler County, Kansas, operating a motor vehicle on a highway of this state without having a valid driver's license pursuant to KSA 8-235A. No valid driver's license is a Class B non-person misdemeanor. And that means that if you were to be convicted, your sentence could be up to 6 months in the county jail, and your fine could be up to $1,000. In count two, it is alleged that on or about the 17th day of August, 2023, in Butler County, Kansas, you did then and there unlawfully operate or attempt to operate a motor vehicle, to wit, a 2003 Honda Accord, upon a highway of the state, to wit, 1700 block of East Foxdale Street, Andover, Butler County, Kansas, while the vehicle was not registered in violation of KSA 8-142. Failing to register a vehicle as alleged here by the state is an unclassified non-person misdemeanor. It has its own special penalties of a fine as high potentially of $2,500 and a jail sentence potentially anywhere from 30 days to 6 months. In count three, it is alleged that on or about the 17th day of August, 2023, in Butler County, Kansas, Anthony Edward Dubus,
Thank you,
will
ma'am.
down there unlawfully and intentionally drive a motor vehicle upon a public highway or property open to use by the public and fail to provide proof of insurance upon demand by a law enforcement officer. Now, sir, if you had insurance when you were stopped but just didn't have it with you or couldn't find it quickly, just provide proof to the county attorney and they'll most likely dismiss that charge. But if you really didn't have insurance, you're looking at a Class B non-person misdemeanor. The law does require a minimum fine if you're convicted of $300 up to $1,000, and it does have a possible jail sentence up to 6 months. Those are the charges against you. You do have the right to an attorney. You can hire any attorney of your choice, but if you cannot afford an attorney, you can apply and see if you qualify for a court-appointed attorney. You don't have to have an attorney, though. You can waive your right to an attorney and represent yourself. Do you have any questions for me about that?
Yeah, I don't understand the nature and cause of the charges. I have not had my accuser face me to bring the charges against me, as is a violation of due process. And I want to correct for the record of the court, the named defendant is different than the named person being myself. Hold on, let me make sure I get that in view of the camera. The named person here is different than the one named in the charges and the counts, being a difference of representation of who exactly it is the charges are against. And it is to my belief and knowledge that per KAR 82.4.3 subsection A, exemption from the motor carrier safety regulations, A, the occasional transportation of personal property by private motor carriers that is not for compensation and is not in the furtherance of a commercial enterprise. I am exempt from these rules and regulations, and if I need to get a USDOT number to show that I was not operating a commercial motor vehicle or as a common carrier for business or for profit or in the furtherance of a commercial enterprise, I will be more than happy to produce that USDOT number to show that I am in fact a private motor carrier, not operating in commerce, not driving, as I'm merely transporting and traveling.
Mr. Dubus, you are not charged under the Uniform Commercial Carriers Code as adopted by the state of Kansas. You are charged just as a motorist operating a motor vehicle. Again, not a commercial vehicle. These are not laws that are subject to the commercial code or to the administrative regulation that you referred.
Although you mentioned the word operating, operating is a term used for the commercial furtherance of a commercial enterprise, or driving, operating, the physical use or furtherance of for-profit business or for compensation.
It may under the commercial code, but not under the code otherwise.
It is under Kansas, correct?
It is not under Chapter 8 of the Kansas statutes or Chapter 40, which you're filed under. But we can address that at a later date at a trial or a motions hearing if necessary. But I do not see the statutory language that you're addressing being applicable to these statutes, at least preliminarily at this hearing.
It is within, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's my ruling there. And then on the name issue, I am not tracking you there. The only difference I see is that at the top of the document, state of Kansas and your name are capitalized, and in the initial or in the individual charges, it's traditional capital letter of the first name, all lowercase of the remaining names throughout. So I'm not following that argument. Again, if you want to readdress that at a later date, we can, but I'm just not seeing that argument.
Okay.
Now
then. I motion and move this court to dismiss this case for the motion I have filed and for the brief in support of motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction.
Sir, I do not have any such motion or brief in support. Mr. Regier, have you received any such documents?
Not to my knowledge, Your Honor, and so I fail to see, at least at this juncture, how such a motion is properly brought before the court, unless the court is aware of something that I am not aware of.
Well, that's what I'm trying to decide, if it's properly before the court. Mr. Dubus, who did you file the motion and brief with?
Well, seeing as your guys' e-file is down for what is it? It's called a ransom malware or something. I cannot e-file.
Right,
so
but you can mail it, or you can walk it into the clerk of the court. Have you done that?
Yes, I've mailed it. By email, which a court
I'm sorry, when I
could.
Okay, go ahead, please. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. It was by email, which the court clerk said I could, considering the e-file was down. and I
Alright.
can't really go 20-something miles to do that, considering my personal property was stolen.
Judge,
When did you
to-
email it, sir? When did you email it?
a while ago.
Judge,
Yeah.
Yes.
we do not accept emailed filings, only faxed or by mail or person.
Okay,
I'm
I was
sorry.
told that they do not have fax, so I could not do that. So email would be okay.
He may have called the wrong courthouse then.
They spent 10 minutes finding my case because your guys' system was down. So I'm fairly certain it was the correct one.
Okay, do you recall which you filed, or which court you called?
Let me go to my sent. T Stafford at bucokansas.com.
I think that might be at the county courthouse, not the district courthouse.
Okay. So
Is it? Okay.
if you want to file something, sir, let's make sure you file it in a fashion that will get it officially recognized. So Ashley, how do you suggest he file motions and the like?
He will either need to mail us a copy of it or he can fax file.
And is your guys' fax active?
Yes, it has been the whole time.
Okay.
It's
And
not affected, yes.
what's the fax number?
Our fax number is 316-321-9486.
Okay. And my honor, I have one last question. For the nature and cause of these charges, is it a criminal or is it a civil matter?
This is a criminal matter.
Okay. As is a criminal matter, there are two jurisdictions which I may be tried. One is the common law, and the other is a military tribunal. Which of those two do you intend to try me in?
I intend to try you in this one, sir.
Which is this one? Please elaborate.
The criminal one.
Well, criminal has two jurisdictions. It is either the common law or it is the military tribunal.
Well, sir, we're not going to go into that at this point.
Are you refusing to acknowledge to me and tell me the nature and cause of the charges?
I have told you the nature and the cause of the charges.
You are not elaborating.
I think the remaining issue, sir, is whether you're going to hire an attorney, apply for court appointed, or represent yourself.
My honor, I need to know whether or not this is going to be in the common law or a military tribunal.
Well, I am going to ask you one more time. Are you going to hire an attorney, apply for court appointed, or represent yourself, sir?
Again, I'm not representing myself. I am sui juris in proper persona or propria persona.
So you're not going to have an attorney, or are you?
No, I'm not going to be presented or represented by any British agent, registrant, or anybody else to be a ward of the state. I'm standing on my rights, and I do not abrogate them. And if you're going to continue to move this court without any sort of evidence, well, I guess I'll have to file that, but
We're going to set your hearing. How do you want to plead to the charges first? Then, if you don't want to have an attorney, how do you want to plead to no valid driver's license?
My honor, are you attempting to administer the trust without permission and consent?
I'm asking you for your response. I'm giving you the chance to respond. Do you want to plead to this charge or not?
My honor, I don't make any pleas as I am appearing in propria persona, and any plea would submit jurisdiction to the court. I am here challenging jurisdiction under the common law, as I am owed the law of peace. And this is a fraud action, as fraud in the inducement from the beginning under due process violations from Deputy Khalid Barake and the other officers or sheriffs that were on scene. And if you are attempting to administer the trust without consent of myself, the living man, the grantor, in common law, which is above Admiralty Maritime Law, then you will be in violation of Article 3, Section 2, the trial of all crimes, except in case of impeachment, shall be jury, and such trial shall be held in a state where said crime shall have been committed, but when they are not committed with any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed. And as there is a difference between the Republic State Kansas before the state of Kansas was brought into the Federation of the Union of States. And you will also be in violation of I'm getting it real quick. 18 U.S. Code Sections 2381, treason. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States, the corporation, not United States of America or for America, levies war against them or adheres to the enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. Now, I, Anthony Edward Dubus, the proper case trade name, not the all caps legal entity of which you're attempting to administer the trust of, am an American state national, a Kansas state national per 8 USC 1101 subsection 21, and is recognized by the Kansas Human Rights Commission, as I have dealings with them going over my nationality in regards to a corporation in which I have a complaint filed against, has already been refused mediation by the company and is being investigated by Barbara Carper, the special investigator of Kansas Human Rights Commission, over my case specifically. And if you are attempting to move this case against myself, you are in violation of executing law rather than just judging on it. Which, if I need to pull up that statute,
Sir, do you,
case as well.
sir, do you still have the same phone number you had posted on your bond that you have with AAA Butler County Bail Bonds? Is that still your current phone number?
My honor, Mrs.
316-252?
My honor, Webster, it is, you may call me either Anthony Dubus or Anthony Edward Dubus. I do not accept the term sir.
Very
Although,
well.
yes, my phone number is still the same at
Right. And is your address, okay, this is iPhone locked. And Mr. Dubois, is your address still homeless, or do you have something more specific at this time?
See, they refuse to put down my address. I am within Wichita, Kansas, rural free delivery, within the 4-corner rule 67202, aka the brackets around 67202, and they refused to put down my rural free delivery address and put me as homeless instead, because they could not accept it. They refused. Also, Deputy Khalid Barake, when I was taken to Butler County Detention Center, refused that there were any magistrates at all within any of the courts, which per due process of common law, I was to be taken before a magistrate or a tribunal, both judicial, either Article 3 or 4, in front of a magistrate judge to be decided whether or not I was even within the jurisdiction to be tried for these charges or commercial crimes.
Your next court date will be 2 weeks from Monday. What do you have, Ashley? 2 weeks from this past Monday. What is it?
I believe that is going to be Monday the 18th.
All right, Mr. Dubus, your next court date is December 18th at 8 a.m. by Zoom. You can always appear in the courthouse personally if you like. I am appointing Attorney Darren Patterson. Now, if you don't want to use him,
I do not accept any appointment of any attorney.
But I show that you don't have a specific residence. Do you have a job, employment?
I did, and then these actions against myself from the state of Kansas caused me not to have it anymore, which I am in process of finding another one, putting in applications every day and making sure I do my due diligence to make sure that I can gain my compensation and my livable wage.
Well, your attorney is Darren Patterson.
My honor.
His number is 316-322-7700. Ashley, please send him Mr. Patterson, the appointment and the court date. I want you two to talk. If he can be of any service to you, I would encourage you to let him do so. If you have any questions or if you want him to help you with any motions, he can advise you on that. But I think at this point, there is a lot of confusion on your part about
there's no confusion.
And how it works. Did you
I've
go to law school,
Mr.
Dubus? Did you go to law school? Are you a licensed attorney?
It is Anthony Dubus or Anthony Edward Dubus. No, I am not a licensed practice attorney, although that does not stop the common law right of anybody practicing law for themselves, or not practicing, as that is the commercial term, enacting law and being in court for themselves, on behalf of themselves, and to have any form of counsel they deem necessary.
All right, we do have finally a point we agree on, that you don't have to have counsel. But I want Mr. Patterson available to you because you have, in this court's opinion, mixed federal law and state law and other sources of law that don't all go together.
May I elaborate?
Want him to be available to you. I think we have exhausted this particular hearing, the purpose of which is merely to make sure you know what the charges are, the possible penalties, and your rights that I have gone over with you, including your right to counsel, which I'm hearing you say you don't wish to utilize. But nevertheless, I'm going to direct Mr. Patterson to at least be available to you, that you be here again December 18th at 8 a.m. by Zoom, and I'm going to continue your bond until that date and time. So anything else, Mr. Anthony Edward Dubus, please take that up. Thank you. Please take that up at the next hearing after you've had time to talk to Mr. Patterson.
Okay. My last final thing I want to say is I'm already filing Kansas Commission on Judicial Conduct complaint against a judge, and that would be the prior judge, Mr. Mr. Lee, I believe, and I will be adding you to the complaint as well, as you are violating my due process right and my Sixth Amendment right.
Well, you're welcome to do that, sir, if you want, but at this time, this hearing is adjourned.
Okay, and I also want to mention that Mr. Regier has not moved this case against myself, and that the witness firsthand witness that needs to be present to move this case against myself is not present
Your
and is a
arguments,
violation of my Sixth Amendment. I yield.
your arguments are noted, and we are in recess. You are excused at this time, Mr. Anthony Edward Dubus.
Dubus, thank you, my honor.
Dubus, I will get it, Dubus.
You're fine. And in the reference to the family, of which you are probably familiar with,
Yes.
I am the only person actually being within common law. They subject themselves as citizens, of which I'm not, and that is probably where the familiarity of the last name comes from. And
All right.
I appreciate your time. Thank you. And I hope you have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too. Devin Canfield for the state, the defendant in person, and with counsel Darren Patterson.
Your Honor, if I may.
Well, I'm not finding his file. It must not have caught up with the quick turnaround. So go ahead.
Your Honor, I did talk with Mr. Dubus. I would tell the court that the sum of the conversation, or I guess the end of it, is that he is asking to represent himself. I would, in review of case law, Judge State v. Collins 257 Can 408, would suggest that he does have the right to represent himself and not have counsel appointed if it's at any stage besides trial. And we're certainly not at trial yet, so that because of that, he does have that right. I think he wants to invoke that right and represent himself, Your Honor.
Mr. Patterson, he did make that clear to me at the last hearing, but he didn't seem to have all of the law in his proper grasp as the court saw it. And so I wanted counsel to be available to him in the event that he wanted to avail himself to it.
I can report we did have a very long conversation concerning the law, and I can tell the court there was just a difference of opinion about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
that's as much as I can tell the court.
I object. For the record, I am not representing myself, and I did not accept your forced appointment of Mr. Patterson onto myself. I am not representing myself. I am in propria persona as age of majority, handling my legal affairs as I need to, which is, again, as Mr. Patterson said, retain and attain my rights, and I shall not be abrogated from them. And I recuse Mr. Patterson from being a public defender for me.
Sovereign citizens often avoid the word represent because they engage in literal and pseudo-legal interpretations of language, which they believe can affect their legal standing. They interpret represent in a way that fits their ideological beliefs, often taking the word literally to mean they are representing themselves as something or someone other than their natural or sovereign self. In legal terms, to represent simply means to act on behalf of oneself or another in a legal capacity. It does not imply any loss of sovereignty or identity, as they believe. This is another example of the word games they play in an attempt to reject the legal system's authority, although these tactics have no basis in actual law and are consistently dismissed by courts.
And I also want to show for the record that you called my proper case trade name, my given name, Anthony Dubus, instead of the all caps Anthony Edward Dubus named accused defendant. And if I can also have I believe it was Regier, who is the prosecutor or attorney for the state, to appear and show himself on the record.
Let's see. 3. So again, that's no driver's license, no tag or registration, and no insurance.
I object before we move forward.
And under Kansas law, if you're going to operate a motor vehicle on Kansas roadways or federal highways or county highways, you are agreeing to follow the law that you will have a driver's license, have a licensed tagged car, and that you will have insurance on that car. Now, if you do not want to have counsel, I'll have Mr. Patterson, I'll ask that he be standby. At this time, you want to represent yourself. You say you don't want to represent yourself, but you can't have it all ways. You have to either have counsel or represent yourself. So you don't want Mr. Patterson, is that, or other counsel, is that correct?
Hold on, I object. This needs to be addressed first. Can Mr. Regier please show himself on the record in person for this matter?
Mr. Patterson, humor the defendant, or Mr. Regier, why don't you, for the humor of the defendant, show your picture, turn your screen on. You're the one that charged the document. There you go. That's Jared Regier, the prosecutor that filed the case. He's not the witness in the case. The witness will testify at trial. So, again, you don't want an attorney to represent you. Is that right, Mr. Dubus?
I do not want an attorney.
Thank you for answering this question.
And I need Mr. Regier to actually come on the record.
Okay, now, you're not in control of this hearing, sir. I'm appointed to do that, so you do not want an attorney. Do you understand that you could hire any attorney of your choice? And if you cannot afford an attorney, you can apply for court-appointed attorney. Do you understand that, sir?
I comprehend that.
All right, that's all I need to know.
Before we move forward, I need
All right,
to...
you comprehend it, and you don't want the attorney.
I need to know, for the record, the nature of the charges, who is the person or individual bringing the verified complaint as a sworn affidavit against myself or the accused legal entity.
As you made that clear, Mr. Jared Regier, you are the one that filed that affidavit, correct?
Your Honor, I'm looking at the information in this case. It does appear to include my name in the opening paragraph of the information.
All right, and I've already told you the nature of the charges. I've explained those to you both at the last hearing and this one. No drivers. The next thing I need to know is, do you want a trial in this case?
Object. I need the affidavit to be produced so that way I may see as evidence the sworn affidavit from the individual filing the complaint.
All right, sir, it is your responsibility to either have your attorney file that motion for discovery to get that, or you must do it yourself if you refuse to have an attorney. So that is your responsibility to file a motion for discovery, and the state will provide that to you. Do you want a trial, sir?
I verbally motion right now for the affidavit to be produced on the record of the sworn affidavit to be produced on the record for the verified complaint.
Well, there are rules of procedure, and if you want to review the statutes, if you're going to represent yourself, I would suggest you do so, because those rules of procedure will tell you how to get that. Now, do you want a trial? That is, do you want to plead not guilty to these charges and proceed with a trial at a future date?
I need to know on the record what jurisdiction this trial is going to be in. Article 3, equity. Article 2, maritime. My bad. Military Tribunal or Article 1, Admiralty Maritime Law.
And
This
Your
will
Honor,
be under the jurisdiction of the state of Kansas, the District Court, 13th Judicial District. Someone had a comment?
Your Honor, I was just going to say that as Mr. Dubus has requested to go pro se, he is held to the same standards as a fully licensed attorney. All of this information is available to him through a written request. At this time, I would just ask that we proceed in an orderly fashion and just set it for pretrial.
All right.
Well, I am certainly Mr. Canfield. I believe I'm proceeding in an orderly fashion.
Can
Now,
I not verbally
I'm going to
motion?
give you one last chance. Read the rules of evidence and follow them, Mr. Dubus. Now, I'm going to give you one more time. Do you want a trial? And if so, do you want a trial to the court or a trial to a jury?
I want to object to the pro se comment. I am not pro se. I'm in propria persona.
All
I'm
right.
making that very clear on the record. And if this does go to trial, I retain and claim the Article 3 equity court, and I demand a trial by jury, grand jury of 12 jurors.
Well, you're going to get a trial under Kansas law of 6 jurors for a misdemeanor, not 12. And you're to put that request in writing too.
All
Okay. You're going to put that in writing
criminal
too.
courts are federal, and this court is federal incorporated.
No, it's not. No,
under
it's
the
not,
United
sir. You're
States
totally out of
Corporation.
order. Sir, you're saying things you don't know what you apparently don't know what they mean. They don't belong in this court. I'm going to set this. Counsel, any objection to setting this for jury trial? He has not properly made demand for jury trial.
Not by the state, Your Honor.
All right, we'll set this for jury trial. You must appear February 5th at 9 a.m. for your pre-trial hearing. And you must appear February 7 and 8 at 9 a.m. for your jury trial. Your jury trial will be, again, February 7th and 8th at 9 a.m. Now, Mr. Patterson, I'd like you to be available unless you want to, again, take the position that I can't do that, but I would think for jury trial, I could have you on standby. Would you agree or disagree?
Your Honor, I believe the court can order that I be on standby.
All right, thank you, sir. But Mr. Dubus, if you're going to represent yourself, you've got a lot of law to learn because you're way out there in left field, as the cliche goes, and you're looking at some state matters. You're in district court of the state of Kansas, the 13th Judicial District, and if you're going to represent yourself, there are rules of procedure for this court that you need to familiarize yourself with rather than those that you're trying to draw upon from who knows what source. So I'll note any objections you have. You can preserve them for your right to appeal, but those are the trial dates and pretrial dates that you have before you.
Again, I object because I need to know the nature of this, whether it is common equity or it is admiralty for the jurisdiction.
I've told you the jurisdiction, sir.
No, you have not. I object and show on the record that the judge has not showed the jurisdiction and the nature of it.
For the final time, this is in the 13th Judicial District, the District Court of Kansas, and this is a traffic proceeding involving 2 misdemeanor crimes and an unclassified misdemeanor.
I object as the Sixth
Objection
Amendment.
noted,
I need
sir.
to know the nature of it, and you are not expressing and elaborating the true nature of it, whether it is in common equity or admiralty. Okay?
Sir, that will be anything. Is there anything else we need to address, Mr. Canfield, from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Canfield. Thank you, Mr. Patterson and Mr. Dubus. That will be all until February 5th unless counsel or defense files any motions that need to be set for hearing prior to that date. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Dubus, you may go at this time. Okay, we are back on the record in 2023 TR 2777, State of Kansas versus Anthony Edward Dubus, with Jared Regier for the state, Mr. Dubus in person, and with standby counsel Darren Patterson. Standby because my prior contacts with Mr. Dubus led me to believe that he, even though he wants to represent himself, there's much about the legal system that he doesn't know or understand and would need the benefit, or would certainly benefit, period, from Mr. Patterson's representation. So, Mr. Dubus, at this time, you want to talk to Mr. Patterson and take advantage of his knowledge and experience in the legal system concerning this no driver's license charge, registration, and insurance violations?
Let me ask first, are we on the record? Is there a court reporter present?
Is there a court reporter present? This hearing is live. It is being recorded. Is someone sitting here with their little fingers clicking across the keyboard? No.
So you're saying that this is not currently a court of record?
This is a court of record because this is being recorded, subject to transcription at any time.
Okay. I would ask for a copy of that transcription.
Well, when you file a written motion and pay the transcription fee, sir, that will be arranged.
Okay. And Phyllis K. Webster, will you please recite your oath of office into the court of record then today?
No, sir, I will not.
Why are you refusing to do so?
Let's move along.
I would please like to have that question answered. On another note, I am appearing specially, not generally, under threat of duress and further coercion by the State of Kansas Corporation.
All right, sir. I did take my oath when I was appointed and when I was elected subsequently. Now, what is it I can help you with today? Do you want a trial, a jury trial, or do you want to enter a plea today?
It seemed like last time we had court, you entered the plea for me.
I did, because you would not.
Okay.
But yet what you were saying suggested you wanted a trial, so I entered the not guilty plea and set it for trial. Somewhere along the line, you led me to believe you wanted a jury trial as opposed to a bench trial. Had I been making the decision, I probably would have said bench trial. But somewhere along the line, you've made comments to make me think you wanted a jury trial. Now, I have not seen, let me double check. I don't think, Mr. Dubus, that you have filed any kind of demand or request or notice for jury trial. Have you?
I thought that was entered into the last court session.
Well, I don't think you filed any motion. You told me apparently you told me you wanted a jury trial, but you never followed through.
I thought that was a decision that we made as the court.
Well, you and I did not make a decision of any kind. Mr. Patterson, do you believe it's acceptable for him to just say he wants a jury trial?
Your Honor, pursuant to case law, because there are at least up to 1 year in the county jail possible, if it's ever consecutive, then case law would state that he has a right to a jury trial.
Agreed, but does he not need to put something in writing to that effect that he wants one? That was my question.
Because there's an absolute right to jury trial, he would not have to put it in writing. It would have to be specifically waived by him, Your Honor, and I don't think he's done a waiver.
Very well. Do you agree with that, Mr. Regier?
One moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, what I can say at this time is pursuant to KSA 6238 subsection B, quote, on any issuable trial by right by a jury, a party may demand a jury trial by serving the other parties with a written demand, which may be included in a pleading no later than 14 days after the last pleading directed to the issue is served, and found the demand in accordance with KSA 6205 and amendments thereto.
Mr. Patterson, in spite of that statutory language, do you think he needs to waive his right to jury trial? Did I hear that right?
Absolutely, Judge. Pursuant to case law, I don't dispute the statute whatsoever, but there is certain case law that makes it a constitutional right to a jury trial if the sentence would be up to a year in the county jail, and in this case, consecutively, it could be up to a year, the longest possible maximum. So it would have to be waived by him, and he would not have to make anything in writing to receive that.
But you don't believe that case law overrules the statutory law, or do you?
This is a constitutional right we're talking about, Your Honor. It would trump the statute.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I would note that pursuant to the information filed with the court in August, this case does appear to include 3 counts, 2 Class Bs, and an unclassified non-person misdemeanor. While it would appear that in this particular instance, subsection 2, pursuant to KSA 216602, quote, for purposes of sentencing, the following classes of misdemeanors and the punishment and the terms of confinement associated for each class are established. Class B, the sentence for which shall be a definite term of confinement in the county jail, which shall be fixed by the court and shall not exceed 6 months. So, given that my understanding is that neither a plea nor sentencing recommendations have been submitted to the court in this matter, it would appear that at least the issue raised by standby counsel is somewhat academic.
So, Mr. Patterson, when you say up to a year in the county jail, are you thinking if they were to be run concurrently, or I mean consecutively versus concurrently?
That would be the longest possible sentence when you start running them consecutively, and that's what the case law would state.
Do you have your statutory site or your case law sites by chance? I know you didn't expect to pull them out.
It's not one I keep handy, but giving a short recess, I can find that.
Well, now, before you go to that, now, Mr. Dubus, do you have any idea what's going on here?
I, as a common man, do not comprehend the legalese that you guys are using together. I can look up statutes and case law myself, and considering that this is dealing with a common right to all people granted to us in restriction of government entities for the people itself, I comprehend that I have my right to jury trial, which I think Mr. Patterson, in his brief support towards this and towards me, towards my right to a jury trial, although I do not fully comprehend the legalese that is going on within the association between Jared Regier and yourself, Phyllis K. Webster.
All right, well, Mr. Dubus, the point is you do have the right to represent yourself, and you've told me you want to represent yourself, and I've asked Mr. Patterson to stand by, and you've already used him here for this purpose. So here's the thing, Mr. Dubus. No, let me talk now, Mr. Dubus. Here's the thing. If you're going to represent yourself, you need to be able to make your own arguments. You need to be able to cite your own law. And if you cannot do that, you have the right to legal assistance. which is why Mr. Patterson is here. And you've already this quickly run into a legal snag that he's made the argument for you. Does it not make sense to you, and do you not want to have his legal assistance to let him represent you?
I do not wish to be represented by an attorney whose duty first is to the courts and not to their clients. And if we're speaking on rights in regards to laws and statutes, the arrest made on me by Deputy K. Barriquet was an unlawful arrest.
All right.
For
Well, we're not going on
22-2401.
We're not going down that path right now, sir. We're not going down that path right now. Well, the issue is, so you do want a jury trial. Are you ready to proceed on Wednesday, Mr. Dubus?
May I ask that there be an extension so that way I may fully research the procedures of the administrative criminal law which we're trying to try me under?
Well, I'm not the administrative law judge. That is yet another procedure.
Although you are in an administrative court under the state of Kansas Corporation, correct?
I'm here in a criminal traffic trial, and I am not an administrative law judge. So here's what we're going to do. How much time do you want this continued for?
30 days or so seems to be a standard.
Well, my next available jury trial date would be October 2nd and 3rd. So
2024.
2024. So that's when I will continue this at your request to. I'll grant your continuance, but that's my next available date. And your pretrial will be September 30th, 2024. Do you have any objections to that?
No objections. Let me write those dates down. You said September what?
The pretrial is September 30th, 2024 at 9 a.m. And the jury trial starts at 9 a.m. October 2nd and 3rd.
Both of those dates?
Both of those dates.
Okay. I would like to point out that the bond and bail I made on this arrest is an unlawful bond, considering that the arrest was unlawful itself.
Looks like Judge Crum set your bond on August 18, 2023 at $2,500 cash or surety, and that will be maintained so long as, sir, you appear at every date and time you're required. Anything else, Mr. Regier, we need to take up on this matter?
Your Honor, if the court is granting the defendant's request for continuance, I would respectfully have it noted for the record that this case at the next hearing will be over a year in age, as I understand it. So the state is not in favor of this continuance. So I would respectfully have that noted. Additionally, my understanding is that a motion in limine was filed by my office, and if the court is saying this matter for both pretrial and jury trial, I would respectfully reserve my rights pursuant to the state and have the motion in limine be addressed at the pretrial hearing.
That the objection of the state to the continuance is noted, and yeah, we can take the motion in limine up.
Your Honor, if I may be heard briefly.
Yes, Mr. Patterson, please.
The motion that counsel is talking about was emailed to me. I'm not the attorney of record, so I have not accepted service. I sent an email back to counsel, and I did provide Mr. Dubus's address that I had seen in the court system that they can directly mail that to, and I would just ask that be mailed to Mr. Dubus for service.
And Your Honor, I am showing in my file an affidavit of service by first class mail, and which would appear to include a mailing date of at the end of last week.
All right. Very well, then. And if there's nothing further, did you get that, Mr. Dubus? Did you get the copy of the motion he's in reference to?
To what mailing address did you send it to, Mr. Revere?
Well, just tell me if you got it or not, sir. Did you
No,
get
I
it?
did not.
Okay, all right.
And Your Honor, one last thing, I did email to court counsel the copy of the case law about constitutional right to a jury trial.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. I appreciate that. And Mr. Regier, he wants to know what you sent that to.
I'm afraid I do not understand the court's inquiry.
He wanted to know what, the defendant asked what address you mailed the motion to.
Your Honor, the affidavit certified in the file appears to be at an Andover, Kansas address.
Okay, are you still in Andover, sir?
I'm in Wichita.
All right, well, you have to keep the court informed of your address or you're going to maybe miss more important documents. So can you send your current address to Mr. Patterson and Mr. Regier in the chat here without having to say it live over the internet?
I'm not for sure the address is going
I'm sending in the mailing address now.
Okay.
And Mr. Patterson, do you have any legal authority that suggests that I that I reaffirm my oath for him? Do you have anything that says I should do that?
Judge, I'm afraid I've never researched that issue, never heard that issue.
All right. Well, same here. I do have my oath in front of me. I keep it handy, but I don't see the need to repeat that. It was good enough for the Supreme Court of Kansas. Okay, so that takes care of Mr. Dubus's case. You are excused, sir.
All comments, viewpoints, interpretations, and insights expressed in this video are for education and entertainment purposes. All individuals featured in the video are to be presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Please do not attempt to contact, locate, or engage with any individuals featured in the video.